Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Toon Review for this morning's press conference reaction, latest news show with myself, Paul. Thank you so much once again for tuning in, everybody. If you do enjoy today's show, don't forget to hit the like. And, of course, if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. Free to do so. All that we ask is that you hit that bell so you are notified every time we upload a video. Always scheduling the live shows. And, of course, super chats are available. The $ at the bottom of the live comments. And that will guarantee your comments to be read out on the show. Right, let's get into it because Eddie Howe has been chatting to the media, of course, ahead of the Premier League opener for Newcastle United tomorrow as we take a trip down to Villa Park. Don't forget, Matchday Live on the Toon Review. We start at 12 with a 12:30 kickoff. Commentary, of course, from me and Billy Bob. Very much looking forward to that. It's live on TV, so, of course, what we say is just knock the commentary off your TV because it's biased crap. It's going to be Isak this, Isak that, and listen to proper commentary as well as watching the game. So we're very excited about that. Now, obviously, there was a few questions thrown at Eddie Howe regarding Alexander Isak. And to be honest, I thought he dealt with every single one of them brilliantly. Absolutely brilliantly. Very dignified, very calm. Didn't look like he was getting annoyed by any of the questions because I genuinely think that Eddie understood that he would be getting questions about Isak. However, to be fair to the journalists, there was a lot of questions about the game and about the current crop of players. But what it seemed to come across as with regards to Isak, and we'll only touch on this at the start, with regards to Isak, I think, Eddie, as dignified as he is, some of the answers he gave kind of gave a little pathway through to what's going on in the minds of the current set of players. That really they've had enough of Isak and really they're concentrating. He made one comment, actually, which he sort of highlighted Bruno and his commitment to the football club. And I thought that was a very interesting thing to say when he talked about Bruno and how well, he's come into the club and just took Newcastle to his heart straight away, and how much he loves the club and how much he, puts effort into every single game, every single training session, and really admired all the commitment that Bruno has shown since he's been at the football club. I found that fascinating because I thought to myself, oh, is that a little dig at Alexander Isak there? Because I thought it was. I thought it was a little dig to say that is how you conduct yourself within this football club. And I really loved it. So, again, what can you say about Eddie Howe? He's just so dignified. He's so, he doesn't want to shout everybody out and things like that. And he doesn't want to make a big fuss in front of the cameras. And a few times he did turn around and say, that question isn't for me to answer right now in this environment. That would be for a later date. And I thought that was excellent as well, because he would only go so far as to answer certain journalist questions regarding the situation. Interestingly enough, when he spoke about the impact that it's had on the current squad, he said, yes, early doors, certainly early pre-season, it did have a big effect on the players. But we've put that to rest. We've continued to get on with pre-season, and we look forward to it now. The mood in the camp is really good. In other words, put the fucker to the back of your minds and let's get on with playing for this badge, playing for the fans, and playing for the football club. And that's what they're all going to do. So that for me was excellent. And I really loved some of his answers. Dan with a super chat. I'm in the gym tomorrow, but TTR commentary will be on. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. Now, obviously, he was asked other questions. And immediately when he sat down, he said it was great to be back. I think we look through the summer and think it is going to be a long break, but it kind of flashes by, and here we are. Lots of work has been going on behind the scenes. The players are ready to play, and we are looking forward to the challenge. Now, when he spoke about that, obviously he was asked a few questions of what his summer has actually been like, being in the situation of not having the CEO and not having the sporting director. And he said it's very difficult, because he could be doing anything. He mentioned playing tennis with his kids and things like that. And then suddenly the phone goes and he has to go and take that. He has to go and take it. He has to do this. He has to do that. And then go back to the family environment. But what he did say was that's just part and parcel of being a football manager, especially in the Premier League. He said that's probably not just me. That's just any manager in the Premier League. So again, he's not he's not really sort of saying, "Oh, it's been really tough for me," all cry for me, show me some sympathy. That's not what Eddie Howe is, and that's not who he is. And I'm absolutely amazed that this guy just continues to come on and be so well spoken and dignified about everything he does. It can't have been an easy summer for Eddie Howe, and I think we all know that it hasn't been an easy summer for Eddie. The Mitchell situation he's had to fend off. But what he spoke about transfers as well, and it was a great question because we obviously wanted to know what is going on with regards to transfers and things like that. Who was doing things, and he was asked the question of, does he feel the need to be involved in transfers? And I thought his answer was absolutely fascinating because he said yes. He says, I do need to be involved in transfers. Obviously, not the dealings with the transfer fees, the contracts. He said, that's not for me. But what is for me is getting the right players through the door and somebody we can feel the love for as soon as they walk in. And we've seen that with Malik Chow earlier on in the week when he met Eddie Howe. Immediately, you can feel Eddie's love for the player. And that's what needs to be reciprocated back from the player to Eddie Howe. That's what he wants in his dressing room. And when he said that I need to be involved because we need to get the right players in the door. And I agree with Eddie, because I don't think it should just be the fact that other people deal with the transfers and target list without consulting the manager. Because the manager at the end of the day is the one who's going to work with these players on a daily basis. The manager will feed back to whoever it may be about players that they need because of a certain system that we play. And I think that's where possibly the Mitchell thing fell into doubt. But the new sporting director, and Eddie was asked this as well, this has to be a long-term appointment. It's as simple as that. It has to be a long-term appointment moving forward. We know that we've had sporting directors in the past who've been here for 2 minutes and then buggered off. But Eddie admitted that it's a long-term job because you have to put processes in place and you have to build on those processes over the years. So it's not just a job that you can come into and sit and do for 5 minutes and then bugger off. So whoever we get in next as sporting director, I think is going to be somebody that obviously the club need to have there for a substantial amount of time to help build and progress the club forward. But I agree with him. I think he does need to be involved without a shadow of a doubt with regards to training. But he did make a big point of saying that he's not involved in contract negotiations, transfer fees or anything like that. That's not his job. We all thought that he might be involved in that type of thing as well, but he clearly isn't. And other people at the moment are handling that situation, i.e. Nixon and his nephew, of course. So let's just hope that when we do appoint a CEO, we do appoint a director of football, that these guys come in and make an amazing difference, amazing difference to the club. But we'll deal with that, of course, when and if that does happen in due course. Now, he was asked about the game tomorrow and who would be in the squad, who wouldn't. Now, immediately we'll rule Jacob Ramsey out because he said that would you expect Jacob Ramsey to be in the squad even if he was registered in time by 12 noon today? And he swiftly said no. And that's what we thought on the preview show last night. We immediately thought, no, he won't be involved. It will be a very difficult situation for Jacob Ramsey to go into. Of course, building up for a start with Aston Villa and then suddenly a very quick transfer progress to Newcastle. And I think it wouldn't be right for me to put him in. However, he says everyone is available apart from Joe Willock, and he's not too far away, which is interesting because we were expecting a very, very long-term injury again for Joe. We have a relatively good-looking squad in terms of injury news. Malik Chow will be part of the squad. He has trained 2 days. Never easy coming in at the end of pre-season, but he's doing well. So again, this is what we expected when we did the show last night and we looked at the possible lineups and who might be on the bench. And I think Malik Chow will definitely be on the bench tomorrow. He's going to be part of the matchday squad. And I think that's important for Eddie to get him straight into the matchday squad, not necessarily into the starting 11 immediately, because I think that would be a huge risk if you're putting somebody like Chow straight in like that. So I think it'll be Shah and Botman or Cher and Byrne starting the game, or he goes with the back five. I think that's one of the options that we looked at, and I think that possibly will be his formation tomorrow going into the game. He will go with a back five because for me, it's a hell of a risk going with a 4-3-3 down there, especially with Villa's midfield. We looked at that last night, and it looks like Villa are very, very strong in the midfield area, certainly. So we need to make sure that we counteract that and put players in there who are going to really stand strong, because it is going to be difficult. Villa will be flying out the traps in the first 10 minutes. I have no doubt about that. And I'm sure Eddie will be aware of that and ready for it. Colin Clark with a super chat. Thank you, Colin. Anyone think Barnes would be better as a striker instead of Gordon? Better finisher and all? Well, this conversation's been had many times, to be honest, Colin. And at the moment, I don't think so. Yano, we do have a Fantasy Premier League. Rachel has the code. The mods have got the code. And I think they put it up a few times already in the chat. So there is a TTR Fantasy Premier League. Rachel, our head mod, has set it up. So please, if you can, mods, just keep putting the Ruffy Benissins, just put the code in again there for the league. So please get yourselves involved if you play fantasy football. But yeah, on regards to that point, Colin, I think the problem is with Barnes. I don't think he's quick enough to play that role. If I'm openly honest, making the runs in the channels and things like that, I'm not sure he's got the pace to do that. When you look at strikers these days, they are blessed with a lot of pace. The successful ones, the old school centre forward just hanging around the penalty area, I think, is very, very few and far between these days. But I do understand that, and I agree 100% with you that Harvey Barnes is without a doubt a better finisher than Gordon. But I think Barnes will still play. So he will probably, Barnes, he's got the capabilities of cutting in on his right and smashing the ball towards the goal. And I think that's what we'll see from Harvey Barnes tomorrow. I do think it'll be very much counter-attack, though, due to the way Villa will probably play, because they will feel like they need to come out the traps flying. Now, on the start to the season, of course, we've been dealt with some very, very difficult games with regards to the start of this season, haven't we? He says, you look at the first few on the calendar, and they are tough games for us. We know the quality of the opposition. We've had some really tough battles against them. It is going to be a really tight game, but one we hope we can do well in. Now, what he also said further on to that is that he doesn't quite mind playing against the top teams early doors, because he said it gives you an indication of where you are. And if you start really well and you get results against, your rival teams at the top, that means, it sets you up well for the season. And I love that from Eddie. It was a very positive point he made. He wasn't sitting back saying, we're very disappointed that, we've got these, the likes of Villa and Liverpool, etc., very early doors in the season. He tried to flip that on its head and say, well, look, we've got to play these teams anyway. But if you play them early, it gives you an indication of where you are. And if you don't get that good start, it means you need to pull your act together. You're not where you thought you might be, and you need to do something about it. But if we get a good result at Villa, we get a good result against Liverpool, it sets you up there moving forward as well. So I'm really, really excited about where this season can go, because, Eddie looks very relaxed. He looked very healthy this morning. He said he's in good health. He was asked about the goalkeepers, which I found fascinating. He said, the question put to him was, do you know which goalkeeper you're going to go with? And he just sort of had a laugh and says, yes, which we all hoped it's Ramsdale. But I think, if we're all honest with ourselves, he's going to go with Nick Pope tomorrow. He's not going to throw Ramsdale straight in, even though we do all think that Ramsdale is going to be the number one moving forward. But I think Nick Pope starts the game. Am I completely happy about that? I can't say I am, to be honest. I don't really have any confidence in Nick Pope. Saving ability, I do. He's a brilliant shot stopper. Nobody can deny that. But the modern day game and playing out from the back, I don't think he fills our defenders with much confidence, and he puts them in very, very difficult situations, either with underhit passes or he kicks it straight out of play. So whichever one, I just don't have confidence in him, and I would rather Nick Ramsdale started the game. But like I say, I'm pretty sure the way Eddie was smiling and things like that, I think everybody knows that the probability is that he's going to go with Nick Pope, of course. Now, on the Villa side, he says a very good environment for them to play in, good support. Tactically, they are excellent. Their way of playing has been ingrained into them, same way and same principles. If you are not on your game, they will punish you. We've had some really good games against them, both positive and negative, and the negative ones you learn from. We are going to be ready for a really tough game. And that's why I was saying earlier on that I expect Eddie thinks that Villa are going to come very, very quick out the blocks. First game of the season, first home game of the season for Villa. The atmosphere is going to be absolutely electric. It's a very, very, very good atmosphere at Villa Park. And we have to be up for it. This is where we want to be now as a football club. We want to play in these big games. We want the big game environment. And we want everything like that moving forward. We want to keep playing in these big games. And it's very exciting. But we have to be ready for this. It's pointless turning up tomorrow and just going through the motions because Villa will absolutely destroy us. We all know that. But the first game of the season, you want to get off to a good start. You need to get off to a good start. And I think that's where Newcastle will be aiming for tomorrow. They need a good start. And you never know what's going to happen. And especially how many times have we said that about Newcastle United when we've kind of written them off? Like we did last night. We didn't predict the best of results for Newcastle United. But that's okay. That's just us going with our heads, not our hearts. Because deep down, everybody wants Newcastle to win, whether we think they will or not. We want them to go and get a good result. I just think that our striker situation at the moment puts more pressure on the other players. We don't quite need that at the moment. And I think that's what Eddie was alluding to this morning in the press conference when he was talking about, not having Isak there. We're having to rely on other players to do jobs that really they shouldn't be doing. And listen, it's going to be tough. Gordon doesn't have the size and the physicality to deal with the likes of Mings, etc. They are big centre-backs that Villa have. And that's going to be a very tough job for Anthony Gordon to keep battling them for 90 minutes. We need to support him. And I just feel that, if we do go 5 at the back, I think the support for Gordon's not going to be there. It's going to be a tough game. But we have players, and we've said this many, many times, that a lot of our starting 11 can beat anybody on the day. They really can. And if we get a good start and we get into the game quickly, and what's more important for me than anything else is that we play a consistent 90 minutes. Because it's pointless going out there for the first half and doing really, really well, and then coming out for the second half and being a completely different side. And we've already seen that a couple of times in pre-season, where they've come out for the second half and they ain't looked the same. It happened in both games in the Cellar Cup with two very, very different teams. So that is a worry as to what goes on at half-time. They just seem to take the foot off the gas, or they lose concentration, or whatever it may be, especially after playing so well, of course, in the first half. Aussie Mag with the Aussie Mag Hal. No wonder he wears a hoodie to training. We are Newcastle United. The name of the front of the shirt is far more important than the one on the back. Can't disagree with that at all. Of course it is. Of course it is. And us as fans are way more important than any player at the football club. We are the most important thing at the club. Benny says, is Ramsey registered to play yet? No, and Eddie said that he wouldn't be involved tomorrow anyway. Listen, we've seen many times that he throws a shock in there when the teams are announced. Whether Ramsey, I think it's midday. He's got to be signed by and all done and dusted, which he probably will be. In fairness, if he's passed his medical yesterday or last night or early this morning, whatever it may be, and they get him registered. You can honestly see him, Eddie, throwing a little spanner in there and putting him on the bench. But I don't think he will. I think he was pretty convincing to me when he said he wouldn't be involved tomorrow at all. And I think it would be a bit harsh on him. Now, the early season expectations from Eddie, progression, improvement, more control in our performances and more dominant displays. We want to score goals and to attack. The league is so hard. The challenges are difficult. I feel we will be stronger when we have our full complement of players, and we need to find ways to win games when we are not playing our best. So I think that was a very prominent comment from Eddie, especially the bit about I feel we will be stronger when we have our full complement of players, because obviously we don't at the moment because the injury to Joe Willock aside, I think he's mainly aiming that at Isak, saying, look, we haven't got a Premier League quality striker in there at the minute, and that's what he's talking about when he needs his full commitment to players. We need that to happen, and we need that to happen sooner rather than later. And you know, Eddie's not stupid. The club aren't stupid. They understand that. They know strikers are required, and we need to get them in the door. When is a different kettle of fish. But progression improvement from last season, that's really good, because, you know, we were excellent last season. We made the Champions League, top 4, of course, a Carabao Cup win. And he still mentioned that Carabao Cup feel, and he says, you know, the cup win is still... He feels like it's still in the dressing room. He still feels it's still there. The atmosphere of it all, the whole rigmarole of it all is still there. And I think that's bloody brilliant. You know, keep that feeling around the dressing room. And that's what you need. You need that feeling around the dressing room, the good vibes, you know, as if to say, right, we've done it once. Let's go and have let's go and have a bit more of that. Let's go and win another trophy. Let's have a real go at the Champions League. Whether we're successful in getting through or not, if we, at the end of our Champions League campaign, can look back on it and say, yeah, we did our very best. Unfortunately, the very best wasn't quite enough, but we've grown from it. But these players, that's where they want to be. They want to be in Champions Leagues. They want to be in cup finals. They want to win things. And you know what? The best way to chuck it back in Isak's face is by doing exactly that, by the way. Leon with a super chat. Thanks, mate. Elanga could do a job for us up front, to be honest. Well, look, he may well look at that during the course of the game. If he goes with Barnes, Elanga, Gordon, maybe the plan is just to keep switching round and making it difficult for Villa to pick the front three up if he goes with that front three. Of course, if he goes 5 at the back, it's very much different tactics. But, you know, I think it was against Madrid, wasn't it, in the second half, where Elanga did go up front for a little bit. He put Barnes to the right and Gordon to the left, and then moved Elanga up front. It didn't make a hip of the difference because we were awful in that second half against Madrid. But that's there. You know, it's there for all to see that he is willing to try and maybe just change things around a little bit and up the ante and keep Villa guessing, which I think we've got to do. We've got to try something different. Would-be Farmer says, how the Bournemouth to Brentford to Newcastle dominoes fallen today. It looks like it. It looks like certainly Brentford are going to get their man on a Roma, whatever his name is, from Bournemouth. Looks like he's going to sign for Brentford. That would seem to pave the way for Visser's move to Newcastle. I would expect that move to develop quite quickly because we've had Visser on our radar almost all of the summer transfer window, which means if reported to believed Visser wants Newcastle, that, you know, the personal terms have all been agreed. It's just obviously fees with the club. Maybe the fees have already been agreed on the proviso that Brentford get a replacement in first. So I expect the Visser deal to happen very quickly once Brentford do get the replacement in. But again, it's not going to happen in time for this weekend, is it? So it's out the window for this weekend. But I'm pretty confident this is going to be in the Newcastle squad come the Liverpool game. Let's have a look at some of your comments. Let's give Elanga time and patience to integrate and prove his worth. Well, we have to. I mean, it's very... But the problem is a lot of people will already say, oh, well, Elanga, he is already, you know, Premier League quality. He knows the Premier League. So why should we really give him any time? He should be up and running straight away because he knows the league. However... the point is, it's a very different team. It's a very different setup that Eddie Howe has. It's a different kind of pace that Eddie Howe wants his team to play the game as well. Now, Elanga's super fit, absolutely super fit. We've seen that in his training videos and things like that. I don't think it's going to be very difficult for Elanga to blend in, and certainly against Madrid in that first half anyway. You know, taking players on, he's 5 yards behind the defender, and then he you know, suddenly he's 3 yards in front of them by the time they get to the ball. But the problem is he's going to whip crosses in and we've got nobody there to finish them because I don't think Anthony Gordon is that type of player where he's going to get on the end of headers. Joe Linton certainly busting the gut from midfield to get in on headers, needs to improve on his direction with his headers after the Madrid game, but that will come as well. So there is options there. Or Elanga simply just brings the ball into the penalty area, lays it off for somebody to finish with a first time effort. But I don't know. I don't know. Steve says Paul is Park in the squad. Well, interestingly enough, I don't think he was asked about Park. I watched the whole thing, and I was at the hospital this morning for an appointment, so I had to watch it on a rerun. But I didn't hear anything mentioned about Park. But the interesting thing about that is he wasn't in the under-21 squad the other night for the game against Gateshead. So is that because he's going to be involved in the squad on Saturday? I think Eddie has seen enough from Park to maybe say, look, we need to keep this kid around the first team. Whether he plays is a very different kettle of fish. But if he's got that experience of being around the first team, I guess we'll just wait and see. I like what I've seen from Park. I have to say, I'd love to see him in the match day squad, because I think even if he made a sort of 10-minute cameo, I think he's got enough in him to cause a few problems, certainly against tired legs. Darren says, Park looks good. I would keep him in the first team. Chronic is saying, yeah, he has been training with the first team, which gives me the indication that Eddie really likes what he sees. Hasbo said it's the Eddie Howe way of playing, not just playing in the Premier League. Once Alanga is Eddie Howe ready. He is Eddie Howe ready. He is. He's been here for a long time. He's had pre-season with us. He's definitely ready to go. Yano says, Visser for the last few months of last season outperformed Isak. He did. And look, I'm not taking anything away from Isak about what an absolute elite striker he is. And I'd be really stupid to sit here and say that he's not a world-class striker, because he is. And you know what? I think anybody that says he isn't needs your head read, because he is. And maybe a lot of people are saying, oh, he's not that good. He's not this. Maybe it's just, sour grapes or whatever it is. But we know he is. And it's very, very difficult to replace that kind of player. But Visser, for me, is the Wilson replacement. And I still think, eventually we will bring in another elite striker. We've tried to do that over the summer, but some players have gone elsewhere. And as Eddie said in his press conference, that's the way football works. We've been interested in a couple of strikers, but they've decided to go elsewhere. And he said, that is perfectly fine. That is the way football works. So he's certainly not angry about it or bitter about it. He just said, that's just football. So I still think we will eventually bring in an elite striker, but not right now. And I think Visser can come in and set the world alight. He really can. He could be an absolute hero at Newcastle, and somebody else, another striker to absolutely worship. Now, a couple of seasons ago, I looked at Visser and thought there's no way that guy's a Premier League player at all. But Thomas Frank did a fantastic job with him and nurtured him into a quality Premier League striker. And that's somebody that we really need right now. He's not world class, but he's a quality Premier League striker. And that's what we need to aim for. IK is a new member of the channel. Thank you, mate. Welcome to Members Club. Much appreciated. Doug, good morning. Visser scored 19 goals for Brentford last season. Buemo scored 20. That's 39 goals they are losing out of their team. I think Brentford could go down. Keith Andrews is inexperienced. I think Keith Andrews, for me, Doug, was a big surprise to be named as manager. But listen, football is a strange game. We all know that. He may be successful, but 39 goals, you're exactly right. That is difficult to replace. But Brentford have always been in that situation where they do sell players. They know that. I think Thomas Frank, before he left in the summer, said they were a selling club. But what they do have at Brentford is a fantastic recruitment team that we've seen succeed over several seasons by bringing in players that we've not necessarily heard of, but been an absolute success at the football club. So maybe that's what they're looking for again. And I can see that happening. But Visser, for me, it will be a brilliant signing, but we need to get it done. Mark Mullins with a super chat. I just think we should just trust in Eddie. We may start off bad. So what? It's happened before. And look what's happened. One cup in Champions League again. It may take a game or two for us to settle with what's happened. And Dan Robinson, it's not that Isak isn't elite. We say we want a player like Isak, but Isak wasn't even a player like Isak before he came here, and Eddie trained him. Yeah, well said. I understand perfectly what you mean by that, is that, Isak stepped it up a level. He's gone up a level or two since he's been at the club, and Eddie Howe and the coaching staff have to take a huge amount of credit for that, which is why I think everybody is really pissed with Isak at the way he's treated Eddie Howe more than anybody. And Eddie was asked a question this morning saying, do you still have that, close relationship with Alexander Isak? And I think that was a very, very difficult question for Eddie to answer, because We know that Eddie likes to be diplomatic, and we know that he likes to, praise people a lot and not really get into slagging matches or anything like that. And that's where I found it very difficult for Eddie to answer. And I think he was a little sort of apprehensive about answering that. And it's very, look, behind the scenes, I'm sure Eddie Howe is so pissed off with Isak. He wants to throttle him. I think everybody would be in that situation. However, of course, in front of the camera, Eddie has to be very, very different with what he says. But going back to Mark's comment about a slow start, I don't think the players will want the slow start either, though, Mark. I think they will want to go out and put a stamp on the league very, very early, because everybody's kind of writing us off without Isak, saying, that this isn't going to happen, this isn't going to happen. Where are the goals coming from? And we've done it ourselves as fans. We've done it sitting here. Say, where are the goals coming from? How are we going to get into the games? And we spoke about this last night on the preview show. I think a lot of the players will use the Isak situation as a motivation more than a negative. They will go out there and say, right, let's show this twat exactly what he's missing. And let's show this twat that we can compete for trophies. We can compete in the league. And, it's not all fairies and roses wherever he goes. If he stayed at Newcastle, he's got a chance of winning things. And I think that the players will show that determination. Now, whether it happens is a different kettle of fish, because we know that sometimes certain players that are still in this squad can lose concentration very, very quickly. We've seen it with Fabian Schär many, many times, that sometimes in games he just switches off and he looks like he can't be arsed. But I think the fact that now Malik Chow is in the squad, that may well just wake up Schär to think, I cannot be like that anymore, because the second I show that kind of form, I'm out the side and God knows when I'm going to get back in it. Because he knows Malik Chow is knocking on the door to start. So I think it's possibly a good situation that we've got players coming in who can challenge the ones that are already in the starting 11. Benny says our aim has to be Champions League qualification again, above all else, for the club's future. I think it's very important simply because of the money. The Champions League gives us money. Whatever we do in the Champions League this season is going to be rewarded by money. Where we are as a club at the moment, we need to be in the Champions League. But what I will say is the way the other clubs have improved over the summer, Champions League qualification is going to be a lot harder than it was last year. And I'm only being honest there. Chelsea have rapidly improved. Man City will not lose as many games as they did last season, especially when Rodri eventually comes back. I think September they've said for him to make his return. So there is going to be teams a lot stronger. Villa themselves are still very, very strong this season. Liverpool, Arsenal. Will Manchester United be up there? Who knows? It's going to be a bit more competitive than I think it was last season, which it'll make things difficult. But all we can do is go out there and do our best and perform in the games we're in. We can't think about anybody else. We've got to go into this season with our heads held high, our chests puffed out, and go for it. And say, right, we're Newcastle United. People have written us off saying we're a small team because we can't keep, we can't sign these big strikers. We can't keep a hold of Isak. Well, hang on a minute. Let's go and prove all these bastards wrong by winning some football matches. And I damn well hope we do that, to be honest. Mango Warrior says, give everyone a new pay rise contract just to fuck off Isak. Just a pretty joke. But now I think the lads will click and show Isak he's messed up. This is going to be a big season for Newcastle and another trophy. I love that confidence, Mango. I have to say, I absolutely love that. And you know what? Why not? Why should we not be confident going into this season? I think a couple of weeks ago, if you'd sat and we did this press conference reaction now and news show, and we thought a couple of weeks ago things were looking a bit dreary, weren't they? We couldn't get a signing through the door. We know the squad was threadbare, and can we do this? Can we do that? Blah blah blah. But I genuinely think the signing of Chow and obviously Ramsey incoming, and then possibly another. Eddie said a couple of players. So Visser and other. I think we can look back at the end of the transfer window and think, yeah, not so bad, mate. Not so bad. We've had a very, very difficult summer, undoubtedly, with trying to get players in the door, but it may work out okay. And that's where we need to look. We need to look at the end result and see what kind of squad we've got together. Tony says, you bang on about Schär. He needs a kick up the arse. Every player ideally needs competition on every position to try to keep them hungry and dissolve complacency. I just think maybe that we'll see a difference this time with Shea because he's got a challenger there, and he knows he's got a challenger there. So whoever plays, whether it be Chow, Shea, Byrne, Botman, they know now there is challenges there for the starting position, and they can't be complacent. They simply can't. They lose form, they're out the side, and it will be difficult for them to get back in. But what I do think that will happen is we will. Obviously, Eddie will switch them around from quite consistently. I think with the amount of games that we're going to play, I have a feeling that he will keep rotating and keep them on the toes by that rotation. Tom says, in and out due to work in that presser today, Eddie demonstrated what a warrior and what a leader he is. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the kind of vibe Eddie Howe gives off. If you ask me, if I'm sitting there, and obviously, you know, I'm talking as an old ice hockey player here, sitting in the dressing room, and the coach comes in, or you watch the coach on TV giving interviews to the press and things like that, he inspires you. And if I was a player for Eddie Howe sitting in that dressing room, I'd want to play for him. I'd want to win for him. Eddie Howe is a winner, right? He's a winner. He wants to win things. And we should be damn proud to have Eddie Howe as manager. Does he make mistakes? Absolutely. Do we call him out on those mistakes? Yes, we do. That's what we do as fans. Of course we do. But Eddie Howe, for me, is an absolute genius of a football manager. And we need to be careful here, because if we do have a bit of a rough start to the season, you are always going to get people jumping on the Eddie Howe bandwagon again, saying he's not the man for the job and all of this crap. He is the man for the job. He's proved that last season, getting us in the Champions League and winning things. He is a big game manager. He completely out-tacticked Arne Slot in the cup final. We saw it. It was there for everybody to see. And you know what? I criticised Eddie last season, as did a lot of people. But, you know, that's our right as fans. And we talk about mistakes, but nobody's perfect in life. People are going to make mistakes. But what we do have is a manager who is proud to be Newcastle United manager, is proud to lead this club forward, is proud at the achievements that he's already had, but he wants to go on and keep achieving. And one thing that he did say in the press conference was that he needs the fans to be with the players. And I think what he meant was, through all the rigmaroles of Isak and everything else that's gone on this summer, he wants the fans to stand by the team. And that was a prominent phrase in that press conference for me. He wants the fans right by the team's side. And he's got it for me, absolutely 100%. And this guy just shows unbelievable commitment to Newcastle United on a regular basis. And I just love the guy. I honestly love the guy. Yeah, I'll moan and I'll grumble when I think he's made a mistake with substitutions or tactics or whatever. But I would never want him gone out of this football club. I think you know, we need to realize what we've got, to be honest. And the players absolutely adore him. They love playing for him, and they've got right behind him with this Isak situation as well. You can tell that. But there you go, guys. It is what it is. That is it for the press conference reaction and latest news. We're back tonight at 7, of course, with TTR Friday. We'll have obviously football chat on there, but we'll have a lot of banter as well. Great way to start the weekend, the opening weekend of the Premier League season, of course. So make sure that you join us for 7. If you are easily offended, it's probably not the show for you, given how Sam and Billy, you know, they love a Friday night, don't they? They absolutely love a Friday night, and they are geniuses when it comes to comedic value. So those of you that have never seen TTR Friday, it's more of a sort of let your hair down show. It's a bit more laid back than what we normally do. We have a laugh. It's very much adult humor. But it is great. And it's a great way to start your weekend. So we'll be back at 7 with that. Mango Warriors popped in with a super chat again. Thank you so much. Isak saga is not going to determine where we are going to finish. Good start of the season. Make a few more deadline day signings. And that will see us on our way back up without the rat bag holding us back. In Eddie, we trust up the mags. Brilliant comment to finish on. Brilliant comment. If you have enjoyed the show, guys, please, as usual, hit the thumbs up. It is so important we keep those coming in for the algorithms and all that jazz. And, of course, if you're new, please do subscribe. Free to do so. All we ask is that you please hit the notification bell so you'll be notified immediately when we upload a video or we schedule in a live show that you can put in your diary so you don't miss it. And of course, thank you for your super chats and memberships during the course of this show. Mods, brilliant as usual. And a massive thanks to you for tuning in this morning. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you back at 7 o'clock. Take care.
Come back and check on Sea Breeze.